Make you say objections
I would
because
think
we trust
that
them.
the board would refer to see the actual policy that my client is appears to be accused of violating before it passes judgment on his actions during the arrest of Deane.
I'm asking a very simple question about, I could ask him what he would have done or how he would have handled the arrest or that case if that
would call for speculation.
Well, no, certainly not. He knows how he would have, he knows what he would have done with the same set of facts as a law enforcement officer.
Unfortunately, the witness wasn't there for the event. He didn't have all the information
like
available to Mr. Deane or available to Sergeant Sean McGuire or to the arresting officers. So for him to put him in judgment of the actions that occurred during that evening seems to be, to carry very little weight, not be admissible in my mind.
I agree with that one.
Which one?
The last one.
That it's not admissible?
Yeah. I mean, his testimony as to that happening that night, he wasn't there.
Right. No, I'm not asking him that question. I'm asking him with regards to how this domestic violence arrest was handled. Was there anything, I used the word unusual, Mr. Politch didn't like the use of that word, but was there anything that as a sergeant with the sheriff's office he felt was outside the normal procedures for the sheriff's office? That's all I'm trying to find out. You'll allow that?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't have the procedures here in front of us, so I'm not able, because I don't have the procedures in front of me, to ask any really worthwhile cross-examination questions. She's asking him to pontificate about what the policies say and how my client may have violated them. Unless I have the policy in front of me, I can't adequately represent my client, possibly resulting in a due process violation. So I prefer that this line of questioning simply go away, or that we have the policy in front of us so I know what Mr. Deane allegedly didn't do, and so that I can adequately represent him.
Mr. Chairman, I think if we want to know, we could ask the witness ourselves.
Yeah, and he can ask the witness questions and cross-examine him. So go ahead.
Okay. Let me try it this way. When you interviewed Deputy Deane particularly about the arrest of Stephen DeHutt, did he admit to you that he had failed to obtain a statement from the victim in the case and that is required by policy?
Yes.
And just so I understand, so that he's supposed to either get a statement from the victim or note in his report that the victim refused to give a statement. Is that what he failed to do?
Yes.
Okay. And he admitted that to you?
Yes, he did.
And did he also admit when you interviewed him that he had not addressed the getting a statement from the defendant in the report that he wrote?
Yes.
When you interviewed Kelly Capps, did she indicate to you that the allegations that Deputy Deane made in the report were not completely accurate? Did she tell you that they weren't completely accurate?
Yes.
Objection. I've already covered this, and I thought you indicated you weren't going to deal with questions whether or not the report was accurate, since, as I said before very clearly, the IA is IA, and the sheriff's conclusion found that there was no evidence to support a finding on the truthfulness in that report. An unfounded conclusion, which means no evidence to support it, not sustained, unfounded. So these questions are improper and designed to only impugn the character of my client. And I ask that his answer be stricken and that no further questions be allowed on this point. It is not relevant to these proceedings. We all know it, and it's intended just to undermine my client's character. Therefore, it's not obvious already, I object.
I didn't ask him if the report was accurate. I asked if Kelly Capps had told him that the report was not accurate. That's the only question I asked.
6 of one, half dozen of the other.
She either told him or she didn't. If she didn't tell him, then...
How is it relevant if the IA has found that that accusation of a false report was unfounded? The only reason they want to do it is to undermine client's credibility. It's about character assassination. I find it unacceptable. I hope you will too.
I'd like to hear what Kelly had to say.
And she's here to testify. I'm trying to establish what he found in his investigation.
Okay.
And that's the only question I had about that. The follow-up question to that is, did she explain to you why she put in the text message to Travis Deane, he hit me?
When she gave me the statement, she couldn't recall why she would have put that in her text message.
In the course of your investigation, did you determine that, did you request the AVL records of Deputy Deane that night when the text messaging was going on December 11th?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what do the AVL records show? Can you explain to the board what that is?
AVL is basically a GPS that's attached to the vehicle. It shows your direction, speed, whether you're stopped. It gives you all the information as far as location.
When you compared those AVL records with the text messages that you had gotten from Mr. Deane, did you determine whether or not he was texting while driving?
Yes, he was.
And were you able to determine what speed he was going when he was texting while driving?
Yes, he was traveling southbound on Highway 17 from the Pearson area, traveling at just over 70 miles an hour.
During the course of your investigation, I want to move on to the issue of the beer pong and the photo that you have there. Did you determine that after Stephen DeHutt had been arrested, based on Deputy Deane's affidavit, that Kelly Capps sent a text message or a text photo to Deputy Deane, and it was a picture of the car, the patrol car with the cups on it?
Yes.
Did you determine whether or not Mr. Deane had shown that photo to anyone else?
Yes, I did.
And what did you find?
We interviewed Deputy Taylor Searstorf at the Sheriff's Office, and he was working, 21 zone, which is the north end of the county. And it's different than the Pearson unit. They work closely together. And he was up in the Pearson area several days after the arrest, and once Deputy Deane had received the photograph on his text message, they were having a conversation, and Deputy Searstorf had mentioned that Deputy Deane had received this photograph and he was concerned about it.
Did Deputy Searstorf tell you that he was concerned that he might be in trouble with the Sheriff's Office for if anybody got a copy of that picture or saw that picture?
Yes.
And what did your investigation show was Mr. Deane's reaction when he got the picture, what he said to Mr. Searstorf, Deputy Searstorf?
He made the statement, according to Deputy Searstorf, that there's no property numbers associated with it, so they wouldn't be able to determine whose car it was.
To your knowledge, was Kelly Capps the person who called the Sheriff's Office to initiate a complaint against Deputy Deane?
No, she was not.
I want to ask you just a little bit, I want to backtrack for just a minute to the domestic violence arrest and ask you whether or not you had interviewed his supervisor, Deputy Supervisor Sergeant McGuire, about the arrest of Stephen DeHutt in the course of your investigation.
Yes.
And what was the purpose of your interviewing Sergeant McGuire?
To determine whether Deputy Deane was forthright with his conversation with him as far as his relationship with Capps.
Did you determine that Deputy Deane had actually called his supervisor before he initiated the arrest of Stephen DeHutt?
Yes.
And what did you find in your investigation about the information that was given to Sergeant McGuire by Deputy Deane?
Sergeant McGuire had informed us that Deputy Deane had told him that that he and Kelly Capps were just friends, and Sergeant McGuire apparently had asked him, are you having sex with her? Are you in a relationship? Are you dating with her? He asked some of the basic questions, and he denied it.
So the purpose of Deputy Deane contacting McGuire, was that to determine if there was a conflict of interest for Deane handling this domestic violence call or claim? Is that what you understood, or?
Yes.
Okay. And at the conclusion of your investigation, did you determine, did Deputy Deane tell Sergeant McGuire that he was texting friends with Kelly Capps?
No.
Did he tell him that he was Facebook friends with her?
No.
And did Deputy Deane tell Sergeant McGuire that Kelly Capps had been at a party at his house just a month before?
No.
And did Sergeant McGuire indicate to you what he would have done had he known all of those other factors about their relationship?
He stated that he would have had another deputy handle the call,
And why is that?
just to avoid any kind of impartiality between the parties that are involved.
Give me just a second. When Stephen DeHutt was arrested on the night of December 14th, do you know if he made any statements about the arrest, about his arrest?
He told one of the arresting deputies that he knows who did this, it was Travis, he hates him.
Do you know what happened to the criminal charge of domestic violence that was placed against Stephen DeHutt after, based on the affidavit of Deputy Deane?
I believe the charges were dropped.
When you interviewed Travis Deane as a part of the internal investigation and asked him about serving alcohol to minors and allowing beer, you asked him, didn't you, whether or not he had done that and whether he allowed beer pong to be played on his patrol car?
Yes.
You asked him about that, and
Yes.
how would you describe his answers to those questions?
He never directly answered the questions. He was evasive with his responsive, and he had a lack of credibility.
In fact, didn't he tell you that he didn't recall whether or not he had served alcohol to the two minors?
Yes.
And then didn't he say, quote, "It doesn't preclude the possibility I may have, I just don't recall that"?
Yes.
I think I asked you this as we were going along, but just to make sure, I want to cover it here at the conclusion of your testimony. When you interviewed Travis Deane during the internal investigation, you have a practice of asking, you do those interviews, you ask the deputies whether they believe that the evidence, or that they violate, not the evidence, but whether they believe they violated certain policies or not. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in this case, when you asked Deputy Deane if he felt that he had violated the misdemeanor injurious to the department, what did he say?
He said yes.
Did he admit to texting while driving?
Yes, he did.
Did he admit to failing to follow a directive or order of the department?
Yes.
Did he admit to willfully misusing the county property, that being the David system, for personal use?
Yes.
And did he admit that his conduct off-duty was reflected unfavorably on the county and the sheriff's office?
Yes.
So he admitted all the violations with which, other than the falsification of the record, which has been established, he admitted all the other violations?
I believe so, yes.
I think that's all I have right now.
Ma'am? Hello, sir. How are you today? Great. I have some questions for you today. I'm probably going to skip around a bit based on the questions that you